This is Attorney Moon Jong-Tak. Today I'm wearing a black suit. Kim Soo Hyun wore this outfit at a press conference, and Wonbin also wore it in The Man from Nowhere. The producer Ma said I should wear it, so I did. Please do not misunderstand. Kim Soo Hyun was active as the husband of the Queen of Tears last year. On March 30th, his press conference turned into another tearful event. Kim Soo Hyun is a man in his mid-30s, right? However, he cried throughout the press conference, and some think it was a bit excessive. As a lawyer, I will summarize the legal issues from Kim Soo Hyun's press conference yesterday. What is the biggest issue? Ultimately, it's about whether actor Kim Soo Hyun dated the late actress Kim Se-ron when she was a minor, right? In the previous analysis, we provided a legal breakdown. The beginning of when Kim Soo Hyun said he dated Kim Se-ron when she was a minor. There was no law, because there was no criminal law provision for punishment. Criminal punishment does not retroactively go back to punish actions from that time, because it follows the principle of legality. Therefore, it is not legally subject to criminal punishment. But that's the law, and Kim Soo Hyun, who lives off his image, well, he's actually transcended just living off it, earning tens or hundreds of billions as a Hallyu star. However, if a man in his late 20s dated a teenage, minor, a middle or high school student, it creates a frame of being a so-called minor groomer, or pedophile, and his image plummets. That's why all his advertisements have been cut off, and the last resort is Disney Plus's, which was originally scheduled to be released this April, but is now on hold because of this. If this scandal prevents Kim Soo Hyun's personal matter from being released, he will face enormous penalties. Ironically, Kim Soo Hyun is said to appear as the king of the counterfeit market. The term counterfeit is quite significant here. It is said that almost up to season 2 has been produced, and if a drama series produced by a global company cannot be aired because of Kim Soo Hyun, the penalties would be enormous, so it seems there's no room to back down any further. Public opinion is at its worst, and it is known as a specialized expose broadcast. And they continue to make broadcasts with that. Now, even lawyers have joined in and held a press conference, and perhaps thinking that if they lose here, it's the end. Kim Soo Hyun has finally volunteered to hold a press conference. A lawyer accompanied him, and it is said to be Kim Jong-bok, the representative lawyer of LKBM Partners. He just kept sitting next to him, so was it really necessary to hold a press conference? I also have this thought. What was particularly absurd was that they did not take questions from the reporters. I mean, if it's a press conference without a Q&A session with reporters, then they could have just given out a press release or uploaded a recorded video. Was it necessary to announce it as a press conference? These are the questions that arise. In conclusion, Kim Soo Hyun denied all the allegations. He stated that he never dated anyone when they were a minor. We dated when we were adults, but just because we dated, I was almost branded as a murderer. And then he kept crying while sobbing. In fact, when you're wronged, anger usually comes first, but crying can be understood emotionally and psychologically because there are bereaved families and misunderstandings involved. There must be reasons for his denial. If he had actually dated a minor and fully admitted to it and deleted it, what would have happened? Would he be forgiven in our country then? Is our country a witch hunt? Because of the culture of public shaming, if this happens, they might blame Kim Soo Hyun for Kim Se-ron's suicide and drunk driving, saying it was due to the mental shock from dating him as a minor. This could lead to a large-scale blame on Kim Soo Hyun. In such a case, the biggest issue would be the penalty for the Disney Plus scheduled for this month. Therefore, fully admitting and apologizing is difficult for Kim Soo Hyun. The star Kim Soo Hyun and the person Kim Soo Hyun are in conflict. From the star's perspective, accepting it would cause significant damage to his agency and Disney Plus, so he cannot easily admit it. He might be experiencing internal conflict in this way. In the press conference, Kim Soo Hyun said that he should obviously take responsibility for what he did wrong. However, he cannot admit to something he didn't do. He made these statements. Huh? That's a valid point, right? You can't admit to something you didn't do. No matter how much Gaseyeon, or Chasa or the bereaved family, insist that Kim Soo Hyun did something he didn't, they can't force him to confess and apologize for dating someone as a minor when he didn't. Because he didn't do it. If they keep pressuring him to confess to a lie, that itself is coercion. That in itself is a crime. Moreover, if such false information is spread on the internet, which has a wide reach as if it were true, it becomes defamation through false information and a violation of the Information and Communications Network Act due to its high potential for dissemination, which I have mentioned in several videos. Therefore, the issue is whether he would have bought it as a minor or not, but can we prove, as Kim Soo Hyun claims, that he didn't do it? Even as a lawyer, proving that something didn't happen is almost impossible. This is why it's called the devil's proof. The subtitles will add this, but in Latin it's probatio diabolica. You've heard of diabola, right? Devil. In English, it would be called the devil's proof. The devil's proof is related to the logic and cases concerning the burden of proof, where it is impossible to prove that a fact or causation does not exist, so the person claiming that the fact or causation exists must prove it. Therefore, Kim Se-ron's family or Gaseyeon would need to provide evidence to prove that Kim Soo Hyun dated Kim Se-ron when she was a minor. How can you prove something didn't happen when there's no evidence? Therefore, it seems that Kim Soo Hyun can only respond by proving that he did not date her when she was a minor, and by countering the evidence presented by Kim Se-ron's family. As for the family and Gaseyeon, Was it in 2016? They released photos and KakaoTalk messages as evidence, right? If Kim Soo Hyun can't refute this, then he's lying. The rebuttal Kim Soo Hyun made at the press conference was a bit puzzling from a lawyer's perspective. He claimed that when they analyzed the KakaoTalk messages with Kim Zae-ron from 2016 and compared them to the ones he exchanged with acquaintances in 2018, and currently, the author identification analysis showed that there was a 90-something% chance that the person in the 2016 messages was not the same as the one in the 2018 and current messages. What does that even mean? It was quite baffling. There's no certified institution that conducts author identification analysis, nor is it run by the state or requires any certification. It was probably outsourced to a company, and if it was done, it was done. If not, it wasn't. Saying there's a certain percentage chance of being the same person is a bit ridiculous, isn't it? First of all, he said it was different because the KakaoTalk messages with his acquaintances were different. When you talk to your parents, friends, or employees, the content of your KakaoTalk messages changes depending on who you're talking to, right? And depending on the time, you might use slang that was popular at that time, or you might study spelling and start using correct spelling. Therefore, since both the timing and the person are different, it's a bit strange to say it's a different person based on forensic analysis. Usually, when interrogating a suspect or a witness, this kind of analysis is sometimes used to determine if the person is lying or if the situation is accurate. However, in this case, it is sufficient to simply verify whether the KakaoTalk messages and photos provided by the bereaved family and the forensic team are original and if they belong to the family. These days, since all such materials are digital forensics should suffice. Since the data likely came from Mr. Kim Soo-hyun's phone, it should be entrusted to his phone with digital forensics. The creation date will be revealed, right? The date the photo was taken will be revealed, and it will also clarify whether it is forged or the original. So when Kim Soo Hyun checked the identity while crying, as explained earlier with the devil's proof, it's almost impossible to prove that Kim Soo Hyun didn't do it. So the materials provided by Gaseyeon and the bereaved family, which claimed he did, should be verified by the investigative agency to see if they are original or not. If Gaseyeon or the bereaved family truly made such claims, they should have responded quickly. In that case, it would be completely defaming my name with lies, and I'm quite experienced with injunctions. They should have filed for an injunction to prohibit the video from being posted before proceeding with the criminal complaint. But since they didn't go through me, the videos kept being uploaded, and they were helplessly subjected to it. Please refer to the previous case where I successfully obtained an injunction to prohibit the posting and broadcasting of videos. Just like when Kim Soo Hyun held a tearful press conference, they even hired a lawyer and held a press conference with fabricated KakaoTalk messages using materials they received from the Gaseyeon family. I am a director at the Korean Bar Association. If the lawyer knew about the fabricated KakaoTalk messages and still verified and recorded them, the lawyer will be disciplined. The lawyer should also face punishment. However, if the evidence presented by the family is genuine and not fabricated, then Kim Soo Hyun, who filed a criminal complaint knowing this, will be punished for false accusation. In that case, it's not just about the damage to one's image, but one must be prepared to face criminal punishment. Then, Kim Soo Hyun might no longer be a Hallyu star, but could become someone receiving virtual gifts in Africa. The situation has escalated significantly. To summarize, it's not about distinguishing identity or anything like that. I mentioned proving non-involvement, but since you can't prove you didn't do it, the person claiming you did must provide evidence. That's the burden of proof. Gaseyeon was doing well with the evidence. If this is the original evidence, then KakaoTalk messages and cheek-kissing photos have all surfaced. Therefore, the investigative agency can verify through digital rights when the photo was taken and whether the KakaoTalk message was forged or not. Now, moving on to another issue. This goes beyond criminal matters to civil ones. In the end, it was a creditor-debtor relationship. Kim Zae-ron had a creditor-debtor relationship with gold medalist, but in fact there was no negligence in the tort. It seems that the compensation was used for the reimbursement of the debt that was paid on her behalf. The repayment was being made, and because of that, the bereaved family and household are claiming that it led to suicide. However, I don't think this is Kim Soo Hyun's fault. That debt wasn't owed by Kim Zae-ron to Kim Soo Hyun. Is Kim Soo Hyun the creditor? Gold medalist is a separate legal entity as an agency. In our country, there is a very lenient attitude towards not repaying debts and such exclusions, but I think this culture needs to change. If a creditor has a legal basis and a legitimate right to receive money, they can ask for the money. Isn't it strange that the person who can't repay should be the one to apologize and admit wrongdoing? And just because someone committed suicide after being rightfully asked to repay, the creditor is seen as the villain? It's not like Kim Soo Hyun personally pursued the debt, and pursuing a debt means Kim Soo Hyun asked for the money. That's not the case either. And Kim Soo Hyun is not the creditor either. Holding Kim Soo Hyun responsible up to this point is a bit excessive. At the press conference, Kim Soo Hyun mentioned that he was not dating Kim Zae-ron at the time, and Kim Zae-ron was involved with another man, so it was awkward for him to contact or be contacted by her. If that's true, while some people can maintain a cool, American-style relationship with their exes, others might find it uncomfortable. Blaming Kim Soo Hyun for Kim Zae-ron's suicide seems a bit of an overreach to me. During the press conference, a recording between the agency representatives was revealed. The representative of Kim Soo Hyun's agency was explaining the reasons for the internal certification to the representative of Kim Zae-ron's agency, and they were acknowledging each other's points. It doesn't seem like it was a matter of pressure. Of course, whether this was communicated to Assemblyman Kim Soo Hyun is another issue to consider. However, Kim Soo Hyun neither pursued the debt nor was he the creditor, and since they were exes and she was seeing another man, he wasn't obligated to maintain contact. Therefore, I believe blaming Kim Soo Hyun is unjust. As the final issue, Kim Soo Hyun's side claimed a staggering 12 billion won. Against whom was this claim made? It was said to be against Gaseyeon and the bereaved family, but specifically it was the aunt of the bereaved family. Kim Soo Hyun's side claims she is a fake aunt, while the bereaved family insists she was closer than a real aunt. Do not defame. This is what is being discussed. Gaseyeon is known for broadcasting quite provocative content. Moreover, if they made money through false information, then it's money earned through illegal activities, so it's right to compensate for damages. But does Kim Soo Hyun really expect to receive 12.5 billion won from this aunt, who may or may not be wealthy? It seems to be a means of applying pressure. There is talk of not releasing any more materials and not collaborating with Gaseyeon anymore. This is what is being said. Now, during the press conference, Kim Soo Hyun mentioned that there is a distinction between the star Kim Soo Hyun and the person Kim Soo Hyun. He made such remarks. It seems like he's experiencing a split in identity. Minis is neither an actor nor a singer. Because of this, he appeared with a bare face and a hat. But since Kim Soo Hyun makes a living with his looks, he came out with full makeup again, as fans who liked him for his appearance might leave if he showed up barefaced. I also got my hair done today. But usually, I do my hair and style it completely before coming out. It would lead to a split personality. When you have to talk about your unfair or sad stories, but you're sitting there with full makeup and styled hair, it will cause a split. That's why actors like Hwa Jung-ho don't use their real names and use pseudonyms. I think using a pseudonym is better. What do you think? I also think about removing my real name from Moon Jong-Tak TV and just going with Moon TV or JT TV. If you have a good name suggestion, please leave it in the comments, and it would be nice if I could find a way to give a gift to that person. From Kim Soo Hyun's perspective, honestly, he might want to quit everything. However, if he quits everything, the penalty fees are enormous, and I mentioned things like Disney Plus and Netflix earlier. Because they are so huge, even if he wants to quit, he can't. As Kim Soo Hyun himself has revealed, being a public figure who has received immense love, it seems that public opinion will be prepared before the investigation by the authorities determines right and wrong. As always, worrying about celebrities is like worrying about a beggar or a nobleman. Is Kim Soo Hyun currently at Galleria Foray in Cheongdam-dong? He is living well in a very large house. In fact, he lives well like someone with a house in Seoul and the countryside, but I don't know if he lives happily. Since I am a lawyer, unlike regular lawyers, I have no intention of jumping on the bandwagon, so I will reassess after it is revealed when the KakaoTalk messages and photos disclosed by the bereaved family through Gaseyeon were created. At that time, the proof of the devil will, in a different sense, become proof of who the devil is. What do you all think? Please subscribe, like, and set the alarm, and if the response is good, I will also produce it in English. This has been Lawyer Moon Jong-Tak from Moon Jong-Tak TV. Thank you.